Dang, that's so OP. Hey guys, Omaha here. Today I'm going to show you every single evocation spell in Baldur's Gate 3. So grab a snack, grab a drink, it's going to be a long one. Alright, for our first cantrip, we have Firebolt. That's going to do 1 to 10 fire damage. Once you hit level 5, it'll do 2 to 20 damage, and level 10, it'll do 3 to 30 damage. Hurl a mote of fire. That's going to have a range of 60 feet. Ray of Frost. This is going to do 1 to 8 cold damage. At level 5, it's going to do 2 to 16 damage. And level 10, it's going to do 3 to 24 damage. Reduce the target's movement speed by 10 feet for 1 turn. It has a range of 60 feet. Shocking Grasp. This is going to do 1 to 8 lightning damage. At level 5, it's going to do 2 to 16 damage, and level 10, it's going to do 3 to 24 damage. The target cannot use reactions. The spell has advantage on creatures with metal armor, so advantage is going to roll 2 dice and use the higher value. So not being able to use reactions is going to last 1 turn. It's got a range of melee. Light. Infuse an object with an aura of light. That's going to last until a long rest. It only affects 1 target at a time, has a range of melee, and it's a dexterity saving throw. So you can cast it on yourself, which will follow you around until a long rest, or you can use it on pretty much any object, or you can use it on an ally, and create your own light sources. Dancing Lights. Illuminate a 30-foot radius. That's going to last 10 turns, has a range of 60 feet. It's a concentration spell. So concentration spells, you can only have 1 active at a time, and your concentration might be broken when you take damage, which will dismiss the spell. And then with concentration spells, down here at the bottom left by your picture, there's a little X. You can click that anytime to dismiss the spell early. Eldritch Blast. That's going to do 1 to 10 force damage. Conjure 1 beam of crackling energy. Once you hit level 5, it's going to change to 2 beams, so you can target 2 separate enemies. And once you hit level 10, that's going to change to 3 beams, so 3 separate enemies. Got a range of 60 feet. So keep in mind each beam is rolled separately. And finally we have Sacred Flame. That's going to do 1 to 8 radiant damage. At level 5, 2 to 16. And at level 10, 3 to 24. Engulf a target in a flame-like radiance. It's got a range of 60 feet and it's a dexterity saving throw. Finally, we have Selûne's Dream. This is going to do 1 to 8 healing. An ally you touch regains hit points but possibly falls asleep for 2 turns. No effect on undead and constructs. It's got a range of melee, it's a constitution save, and you can use it once per long rest. This is only usable if you equip the Amulet of Selûne's Chosen, which is found in the Goblin Camp at the Shattered Sanctum. Alright, for our first level 1 spell, we have Witch Bolt. It's going to do 1 to 12 lightning damage. Link yourself to a target with a bolt of lightning. Deal an additional 1 to 12 lightning damage each turn by activating it. That'll last 10 turns, has a range of 60 feet, and it's a concentration spell. And then upcasting the spell increases the initial damage by 1 to 12 lightning damage per level. So level 1 it'll do 1 to 12, all the way up to level 6 where it does 6 to 72. And that doesn't affect the additional damage per turn that you can activate. Hit him for 8, and turn. He took 3 damage right there. So he's electrocuted and he's taking 1 to 4 lightning damage at the start of each turn. And now I can activate Witch Bolt each turn, unless I break my concentration, which will do an additional 1 to 12 lightning damage. If not activated each turn, the arc dissipates and the spell ends. And that'll have a range of 100 feet. I'll activate it. And then activating it each turn isn't going to use a spell slot. And it'll do 7 damage and finish him off. Next up, we have Chromatic Orb. This is actually going to give you 6 different variants. The first 5, Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, and Poison, are going to deal 2 to 16 damage at level 1, with an additional 1 to 8 per level, all the way up to 7 to 56 at level 6. And those first 5 will also create a surface that lasts 2 turns. And the surface will have an area of effect of 7 feet. The 6th one, Thunder, won't create a surface, but instead will deal increased damage. So at level 1, it's going to deal 3 to 24, with an additional 1 to 8 per level, all the way up to 8 to 64. And all the variants have a range of 60 feet. So Thunder, hurl a sphere of thunderous energy. Next there's Acid, hurl caustic energy that damages the target and creates an acid surface on impact. So the acid is going to reduce their armor class by 2 while they're standing on the surface. Cast it on this guy. He's standing in the acid surface, so reduce armor class by 2. So he's down to 12 armor class instead of 14. And with this, the damage is direct, so if I cast it on the ground right here, it won't damage them, but it will hit them with the puddle. Then next there's cold. Hurl freezing energy that damages the target and creates a frosty surface to knock creatures prone. So prone, they won't be able to move or take actions, bonus actions, or reactions, and they have disadvantage on strength and dexterity saving throws. Attacks against the prone creature have advantage if they're made within 10 feet of the creature. Prone creature must spend half its movement speed to stand up. So disadvantage is where it's going to roll 2 dice and use the lower value. Advantage is going to roll 2 dice and use the higher value. And saving throws is what determines whether a target resists a spell or condition. All right, here's cold. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, that took me like 8 reloads to get him to go prone. So hope you enjoyed that. So now he's prone for 1 turn, and since he's on this difficult terrain, he has half movement speed. And if any of them walk through this ice surface, they have a chance of falling prone. Then we've got fire. Hurl fiery energy that damages the target and creates a burning surface on impact. So the burning surface, they'll take 1 to 4 fire damage per turn as long as they're in that surface. And now he's burning while on the surface. Here's the lightning. So he got hit for the initial attack with 5 damage, and then the per turn damage was 4, because that's at the beginning of each turn. So he took an additional 1 damage right there. All right, those guys are immune to poison, but here's poison. Hurl poisonous energy that damages the target and creates a bubbling surface to poison creatures. So when they're poisoned, they suffer disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. So now he has Simple Toxin. Affected entity takes 1 to 4 poison damage at the end of its next turn. So interestingly enough, that's actually applying the Simple Toxin effect instead of the poison effect. So there, he took 3 damage. Burning Hands, that's going to deal 3 to 18 fire damage. Each flammable target is hit with 3 to 18 fire damage. On save, targets still take half damage. Got an area of effect of 17 feet, and it's a dexterity saving throw. It's also going to deal an additional 1 to 6 fire damage per level. So at level 6, you'll be dealing 8 to 48 damage. And it's got a little cone that you target enemies with. Everybody in the cone will take damage. He was saved, he took 5, and he took 8. Thunder Wave. This is going to deal 2 to 16 thunder damage. Release a wave of thunderous force that pushes away all creatures and objects. On a save, targets still take half damage. Got an area of effect of 17 feet, and it's a constitution saving throw. Upcasting is going to deal an additional 1 to 8 thunder damage per level, so from 2 to 16, all the way to 7 to 56 at level 6. Magic Missile, 6 to 15 force damage. Shoot 3 magical darts, each dealing 2 to 5 force damage. They always hit their target. It has a range of 60 feet. This is really good for finishing off multiple enemies if they're low HP. So upcasting is going to create an additional dart per level, and each of those darts are still going to do 2 to 5 force damage. So level 1, you have 6 to 15 damage with 3 projectiles. Once you hit level 6, you'll have 8 projectiles, dealing a total of 16 to 40 damage. So you can select whatever targets you want. And they always hit. Cure Wounds. That's going to do 4 to 11 healing. It's actually going to do 1 to 8 healing plus your spellcasting modifier. So for a druid, your spellcasting ability is based on wisdom. So with 17, that gives me +3 to wisdom checks. That's where the +3 comes from right here. So 1 to 8 +3. Heal a creature you can touch. No effect on undead and constructs in a range of melee. And then upcasting is going to heal an additional 1 to 8 hit points per level. So it goes from 4 to 11 up to 9 to 51 at level 6. Healing Word. That's going to do 4 to 7 healing, 1 to 4 plus your spellcasting modifier. So for me, it's +3 right now with a wisdom of 17. Heal a creature you can see. No effect on undead and constructs, range of 60 feet. And this one's actually going to use a bonus action. So you can use this along with another spell on your turn. And upcasting heals an additional 1 to 4 hit points per level. At level 6, you'll be doing 9 to 27 healing. And there's the range right there. So it has more range than Cure Wounds, and it is a bonus action, but it heals for less. Fairy Fire. All targets within the light turn visible. So if they're invisible, this will make them visible again. And attack rolls, which determines whether you hit the target or not, against them have advantage. So you roll 2 dice and use the higher value. This is going to last for 10 turns. It has a range of 60 feet. It's a dexterity saving throw, and it's a concentration spell. And upcasting doesn't grant any additional benefits. Shedding Dim Light. Incoming attacks have advantage. Cannot be invisible. Divine Favor. Your weapon attacks deal an additional 1 to 4 radiant damage. That'll last 3 turns. It's a concentration spell, and it uses a bonus action. And upcasting doesn't grant any additional benefits. So now, my weapon does its normal damage, plus the 1 to 4 radiant damage.
Time for some bloody work.
Searing Smite. This is going to add 1 to 6 fire damage to your normal weapon damage. Deal an additional 1 to 6 fire damage and set your target on fire. It takes 1 to 6 fire damage every turn for 10 turns. Got a range of melee, it's a concentration spell, and it uses both an action and a bonus action. And upcasting is going to increase the initial damage by 1 to 6 fire damage per level. So at level 3, you'll be dealing 3 to 18 extra fire damage on top of your weapon damage. So there I did 2 fire damage and 10 bludgeoning damage. And now he's going to take 1 to 6 fire damage every turn until he succeeds a Constitution saving throw. There he took 3 damage. Thunderous Smite. This is going to add 2 to 12 thunder damage to your normal weapon damage. Pushes your target 10 feet away and possibly knocks it prone. So I already went over what prone does. I'll just highlight it for a second in case you want to pause it. And that's going to be for 1 turn. It's a range of melee. It's a strength saving throw. And it uses an action and a bonus action. And then upcasting doesn't grant any additional benefits. So I did 10 bludgeoning and 9 thunder damage. All right, Wrathful Smite. This is going to add 1 to 6 psychic damage to your normal weapon damage. Possibly frightens the target. So cannot move. Frightened entities also have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls. They will be easier to hit and they cannot move. So that'll last 2 turns. It's a range of melee. It's a wisdom saving throw and it's a concentration spell. It's also going to use an action and a bonus action. And then upcasting doesn't grant any additional benefits. Now he's frightened. I did 3 psychic damage and 10 bludgeoning damage. So now he cannot move. He also has disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls. Guiding Bolt. This will do 4 to 24 radiant damage. The next attack roll against this target has advantage. So that'll last 2 turns and it'll give you an easier chance of hitting them because you'll roll 2 dice and use the higher value. Range of 60 feet. And upcasting is going to give you an additional 1 to 6 radiant damage per level. So once you hit level 6, you'll do 9 to 54 radiant damage. And finally, we have Hellish Rebuke. So this spell's a reaction. Reactions can only be used in response to a specific event. So it does 2 to 20 fire damage. React to your next attacker with flames that deal 2 to 20 fire damage. On a save, the target still takes half damage. The dexterity saving throw, and on the Oathbreaker Paladin, it's always prepared. I believe this spell's only on the Warlock class and the Oathbreaker Paladin subclass. So I'll end my turn. He's going to attack. Hellish Rebuke 1, 2 to 20 fire damage. At level 2, upcast, it's going to deal 3 to 30 fire damage. So it's going to deal an additional 1 to 10 fire damage per level. With the Oathbreaker Paladin, you can only get it to level 3. With the Warlock, it can go up to level 5, so it'll do 6 to 60 fire damage. So I'll use level 1 just to show you what it looks like. For our first level 2 spell, we have Darkness. Create a dark shroud that heavily obscures and blinds creatures within. Creatures cannot make ranged attacks into or out of it. It'll last 10 turns. The area of effect is 17 feet, has a range of 60 feet, and it's a concentration spell. So blinds, the target will have disadvantage on attack rolls. Range of attacks and spells are reduced to 10 feet. Attack rolls against blinded creatures have advantage. Here's what that looks like. Using both of us. So he's blinded while inside the surface. And if you hide, you'll be heavily obscured. Hiding in a heavily obscured area will go undetected unless they get too close to another creature. This spell also blocks line of sight. So if I'm on this side of the smoke and he's on the other side, he won't be able to see me at all. Or even if I'm in the smoke and he's outside, he won't be able to see me inside the smoke. Melf's Acid Arrow. This is going to do 6 to 24 acid damage. Shoot a green arrow that covers the target and the ground with acid. Deals 4 to 16 acid damage immediately and 2 to 8 acid damage at the end of the target's turn. And that'll be for 1 turn. On a miss, the target still takes half the initial damage. It's got a range of 60 feet. Then upcasting will deal an additional 1 to 4 acid damage per level, and that's on the initial damage and on the delayed damage. So at level 6, you'll deal 8 to 32 immediate damage and 6 to 24 delayed damage. Took 12 damage. Takes 2 to 8 acid damage at the end of their turn. And then since he's standing in acid, it's going to reduce his armor class by 2. End my turn. He takes 6 acid damage at the end of his turn. Gust of Wind. Summon a strong wind that clears all clouds and pushes creatures back 17 feet, forcing them off balance for 1 turn. So off balance, the affected entity has disadvantage on strength and dexterity checks, and attack rolls against it have advantage. Removed by taking damage or when helped. This has an area of effect of 40 feet, and it's a strength saving throw. Upcasting doesn't grant any additional benefits. So he was saved, but he got knocked off balance for 1 turn. And then if you use it on a fog cloud or a poison cloud or any type of cloud, it'll clear out a little area for you. Scorching Ray. This will deal 6 to 36 fire damage. Hurl 3 rays of fire. Each ray deals 2 to 12 fire damage. Has a range of 60 feet. Then upcasting will hurl an additional ray per level. Level 2, there's 3 projectiles. Level 6, there will be 7 projectiles, and it'll deal 18 to 84 damage. So you choose 3 targets. Shatter. Deals 3 to 24 thunder damage. Damages all nearby creatures and objects. Creatures made of inorganic materials such as stone have disadvantage on their saving throw, so it'll be easier to hit. On save, targets still take half damage. Has a range of 60 feet, and it's a constitution saving throw. And upcasting will deal an additional 1 to 8 thunder damage per level, so at level 6, you'll be doing 7 to 56 damage. Flame Blade. Conjure a flaming scimitar in your hand that deals 3 to 18 fire damage and sheds bright light in a 10-foot radius and dim light in a 20-foot radius. The blade can be unequipped and equipped again, but has to stay on the spellcaster's person, so it'll last 10 turns and it uses a bonus action. If you upcast, you'll deal an additional 1 to 6 fire damage per 2 levels. So at 2 and 3, it'll deal 3 to 18. At 4 and 5, it'll deal 4 to 24. And then at level 6, it'll deal 5 to 30. Here's my Flame Blade, 3 to 18 damage. Moonbeam deals 2 to 20 radiant damage. Call down a beam of light that damages any creature that enters the beam or starts its turn in the light. You can use an action to move the beam 60 feet. So it'll last 10 turns, and on a save, targets still take half damage. Has a range of 60 feet, it's a constitution saving throw, and it's a concentration spell. Upcasting will deal an additional 1 to 10 radiant damage per level. Took 11 damage, end turn. He took 12 damage at the start of his turn since he started in the light. And then on your turn, you can move the Moonbeam without using a spell slot. It just costs an action. Branding Smite. This is actually going to have 2 actions. So Branding Smite melee will add 2 to 12 radiant damage to your melee weapon, possibly marks your target with light, preventing it from turning invisible. That'll be for 10 turns. It's range of melee, constitution saving throw, and it's a concentration spell. And it's going to use an action and a bonus action. Then upcasting will deal an additional 1 to 6 radiant damage per level. So at level 3, it'll add 3 to 18 radiant damage. There it at 8 bludgeoning and 8 radiant damage. And then Branding Smite ranged adds 2 to 12 radiant damage to your ranged weapon with the same effects. That has a range of 60 feet now. And then upcasting will deal an additional 1 to 6 radiant damage per level. So I did 3 piercing and 7 radiant damage. Prayer of Healing. This does 5 to 19 healing, does 2 to 16 healing, plus 3 from your spellcasting modifier. Heal all allies you can see. Can only be used outside of combat. No effect on undead and constructs. Has a range of 30 feet. Then upcasting will heal an additional 1 to 8 hit points per level. So at level 6, you'll deal 9 to 51 healing. Then there's Spiritual Weapon. Summon a floating spectral weapon that attacks your enemies alongside you. Has a range of 60 feet and uses a bonus action. So you'll have 6 different options. They'll all do the same damage and all have the same amount of hit points. They just have different actions that they can take. All of them will last for 10 turns. So Great Axe. And then all of them will have these stats and resistances. So resistance to slashing, piercing, bludgeoning, acid, thunder, necrotic, fire, lightning, cold, radiant, and force. So for all those, the damage will be halved and has psychic resistance and poison resistance, so it'll take no damage from those damage types. And then they'll all have ethereal passive feature. Affected entity is incorporeal and can't be shoved, thrown, or used as an improvised weapon. So you can move these as their own entity. So the Great Axe will have Great Axe Slash and Lacerate. Slash at your target's vital points to make it bleed. Undead and constructs can't bleed for 2 turns. So bleeding takes 2 slashing damage at the start of each turn and has disadvantage on constitution saving throws removed by healing. So that's a range of melee, constitution saving throw, and recharges on a short rest. And then all of the weapons will have fly, and you can dismiss them at any time. So the Great Sword has Great Sword Slash, basically the same attack, and Lacerate, which is the same. The Halberd has Halberd Slash, which is basically the same attack, and Lacerate, which is the same. The Maul has Maul Blow, which is basically the same, and Concussive Smash, which possibly dazes your target. They can't take reactions and are easier to hit. That'll last for 2 turns. So Dazed has disadvantage on wisdom saving throws, can't take reactions, and loses the dexterity bonus to their armor class. Removed if an ally helps this creature. That'll last 2 turns. The range of melee, a constitution saving throw, and recharges on a short rest. The Spear has Spear Thrust, basically the same as the other attacks, and Piercing Strike. Does regular damage and possibly inflicts gaping wounds, which cause extra damage on attacks. Undead and constructs can't receive gaping wounds. The gaping wounds last 2 turns. Attacks against this creature deal an additional 2 piercing damage removed by healing. It's a range of melee, constitution saving throw, and replenishes on a short rest. And then there's the Trident, which has Trident Thrust, which is the same as the other attacks again, and Piercing Strike, which is the same as the Spear. And for all of the weapons, when you upcast every 2 levels higher than the original, the weapon gains 8 hit points and an additional 1 to 8 force damage. So at level 6, they'll all have 36 hit points instead of 20, and all of their attacks will deal 7 to 28 damage. All right, to start off level 3, we have Mass Healing Word. This does 4 to 7 healing, 1 to 4 plus your spellcasting modifier, so for me plus 3 currently. Heal up to 6 allies. Has no effect on undead and constructs. Has a range of 60 feet, and this uses a bonus action. So there's the range for you. And upcasting heals an additional 1 to 4 hit points per level. So at level 6, you'll do 7 to 19 healing. Fireball. I think everybody knows what this is. It does 8 to 48 fire damage. Shoot a bright flame from your fingers that explodes on contact, torching everything in the vicinity. On save, targets still take half damage. Has a range of 60 feet, and it's a dexterity saving throw. Upcasting will deal an additional 1 to 6 fire damage per level. So at level 6, that's 11 to 66 damage. Next up, there's Daylight. Enchant an item to shine like the sun or summon a sphere of sunlight that dispels all darkness around it. This will last until you do a long rest and it has a range of 60 feet. So the sphere, summon a sphere of sunlight that dispels all darkness around it. This is the radius of it. So when you cast that, it'll make it bright for that huge radius. And then enchant an item or weapon to shine with the light of the sun and dispel all darkness around it. So you can use it on yourself, or you can use it on an ally, or really anything. So I'll use it on this crate. And that's producing its own light source. I can use it on myself. So my weapon is enchanted, and then I can walk around with daylight on me until I use a long rest. Blinding Smite. This adds 3 to 24 radiant damage to your weapon. Evoke a heavenly flare and possibly blind your target. I think I already went over blind, so I'll just highlight it for a second. And that lasts 10 turns. It's got a range of melee, it's a constitution saving throw, and it uses an action and a bonus action. So I'll use it on him. It did 10 radiant and 14 bludgeoning damage. And this can't be upcast to the best of my knowledge because it's only available in the Paladin, and the max spell slots you can get is level 3. Warden of Vitality. While this aura lasts, you can cast Restore Vitality as a bonus action to heal yourself or nearby allies. That'll stay active for 10 turns and has a range of 30 feet. Cast that. That gives you Restore Vitality, which does 2 to 12 healing. Use a bonus action to heal yourself or a nearby ally. It has a range of 30 feet. And use that within this radius. Use it on myself. And finally, we have Crusader's Mantle. Radiate a holy power that emboldens nearby allies. Their weapon attacks deal an additional 1 to 4 radiant damage. This will last 10 turns, has a range of 30 feet, and it's a concentration spell. So now that she's in that range, she has Crusader's Mantle effect, and her dagger now has an additional 1 to 4 radiant damage. Lightning Bolt. This will deal 8 to 48 lightning damage. Call forth a blast of lightning that hits all creatures in the line of the eruption. On save, targets still take half damage. This has a range of 100 feet, and it's a dexterity saving throw. Upcasting is going to deal an additional 1 to 6 lightning damage per level, so you'll go from 8 to 48, all the way up to 11 to 66 lightning damage. So this is going to have a straight line, and you don't actually need to see the target. Well, your character doesn't really need to see the target, so if there's fog in front of you, you can just shoot right through it as long as you can actually see it. All right, moving on to level 4, we have Ice Storm. This does 6 to 40 damage, 2 to 16 of bludgeoning, and 4 to 24 of cold. Impel a storm of hail and ice to crash from the sky, covering the ground and striking all objects and creatures within range. That's going to leave an ice surface for 2 turns. On save, targets still take half damage. Area of effect is 20 feet, range of 60 feet, and it's a dexterity saving throw. Upcasting will deal an additional 1 to 8 bludgeoning damage per level. So you'll go from 6 to 40 up to 8 to 56 at level 6. So they were all saved from the initial ice, but if they move, they have a chance to slip and fall, and the ice is going to give them difficult terrain, so their movement speed will be halved. Autoluk's Resilient Sphere. Enclose a target in a sphere of shimmering force, reducing its movement speed by half, and blocking all incoming and outgoing damage. That'll last 3 turns. The target can't be huge in size. It's a range of 30 feet, a dexterity saving throw, and it's a concentration spell. And upcasting won't grant any additional benefits. All right then. So now he's enclosed in the sphere. He can't do any damage, and he can't take any damage, and he can only move half the amount per turn. Wall of Fire. This does 5 to 40 fire damage. Create a blazing wall of fire, burning anyone who dares stand too close. Has a range of 60 feet, uses a dexterity saving throw, and it's a concentration spell. Upcasting is going to deal an additional 1 to 8 damage per level. So at level 6, you'll do 7 to 56 damage per turn. You can drag this anywhere within the range, so 60 feet, so I can drag it all the way from that end to over here, as long as I can see both sides. And it's just gonna do ridiculous damage. So this is gonna last 200 turns according to this. Not willing to really test that, but you can dismiss it at any time at the bottom left down by your profile picture. And so when they run through, they just keep dying. All right, I've been testing it for 15 or 16 turns so far. It says 137 turns remaining, so it's counting down incorrectly as well. The wikis say 10 turns, but I've been noticing as I've been making this video to double check my work that the wikis are wrong on a ton of things, so I wouldn't trust everything that they say. So safe to say it'll last your entire battle, I'll just say that. Okay, with the Wall of Fire, I think it actually lasts until you do a long rest. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And finally, we have Fire Shield. This will give you 2 actions. Fire Shield Chill, which does 2 to 16 cold damage. Ice Cold Flames shed light in a 10-foot radius. You take only half the damage of all fire damage and deal 2 to 16 cold damage to anyone who hits you with a melee attack. That'll last 10 turns. And upcasting doesn't grant any additional benefits. So when they hit me, he takes 11 cold damage. He takes 9. And then we have Fire Shield Warm. This does 2 to 16 fire damage. Scorching Flames shed light in a 10-foot radius. You take only half the damage of all cold damage, and you deal 2 to 16 fire damage to anyone who hits you with a melee attack, and that'll also last 10 turns. And upcasting doesn't grant any benefits for this one either. Now he'll hit me, and he takes 13 fire damage, and then this guy takes 9 fire damage. All right, we're gonna start level 5 off with Wall of Stone. Raise a wall of non-magical solid stone. This has a range of 60 feet, and it's a concentration spell. Upcasting isn't gonna grant you any additional benefits. And so you're gonna cast this just like Wall of Fire, where you need to see both ends. It's got a really big range, so you can cast it even farther than this. And it's going to put up a huge wall of stones. Each stone pillar has 30 HP. And these stone pillars last until they're destroyed, until you dismiss the spell, or I believe until a long rest. Cone of Cold. This does 8 to 64 cold damage. Make a flurry of frost, crisp air, and condensed snow crystals erupt from your hands. On save, targets still take half damage. Has an area of effect of 30 feet, and it's a constitution saving throw. Upcasting is going to give you an additional 1 to 8 cold damage per level. So at level 6, it's 9 to 72 cold damage. So everybody within this cone will get hit. Flame Strike. This does 10 to 60 damage, 5 to 30 of fire, and 5 to 30 of radiant. Make a pillar of divine fire roar down from the heavens like the wrath of the affronted angels. On save, targets still take half damage. This has a range of 60 feet, and it's a dexterity saving throw. And upcasting will deal an additional 1 to 6 fire damage and 1 to 6 radiant damage per level. So at level 6, you'll deal 12 to 72 damage, 6 to 36 of fire, and 6 to 36 of radiant. Destructive Wave. This has 2 actions. Destructive Wave Necrotic, which does 10 to 60 damage, 5 to 30 of thunder, and 5 to 30 of necrotic. Emit a shockwave of malevolent thunder that damages nearby creatures and possibly knocks them prone for 1 turn. On save, targets still take half damage. Has a range of 30 feet, and it's a constitution saving throw. And then Destructive Wave Radiant. Also does 10 to 60 damage, 5 to 30 of thunder, and 5 to 30 of radiant. Emit a shockwave of divine thunder that damages nearby creatures and possibly knocks them prone for 1 turn. On save, targets still take half damage, range of 30 feet, and constitution saving throw. And our final spell for level 5 is Mass Cure Wounds. This does 6 to 27 healing, 3 to 24, plus 3 from the spellcasting ability modifier. Unleash a soothing hum of energy that heals you and nearby allies. Has no effect on undead and constructs, and has a range of 60 feet. So upcasting is going to heal an additional 1 to 8 hit points per level. So at level 6, you do 7 to 35. And this is going to let you target 6 allies within a range of 60 feet, so all the way out to here. All right, to start out level 6, we have Wall of Ice. This does 2 to 120 cold damage. Raise a wall of solid ice that deals 10 to 60 cold damage to anyone standing in its way. When the ice is broken, it leaves behind a cloud of frigid air that deals 10 to 60 cold damage per turn to creatures within. This has a range of 60 feet, it's a dexterity saving throw, and it's a concentration spell. You cast it similarly to Wall of Flames and Wall of Stone. So each ice pillar has 30 HP, and it leaves an ice surface that's difficult terrain and they can slip on. So now I've dismissed my wall of ice, and there's the frigid air. He goes through it, he takes 16 damage. Otuluk's Freezing Sphere. This is going to give you 2 actions. Otuluk's Freezing Sphere, which is 10 to 60 cold damage. Launch a ball of churning ice that explodes and damages all creatures and objects within range. And it's going to leave an ice surface for 10 turns. On save, targets still take half damage from the explosion. It's got an area of effect of 20 feet, range of 60 feet, and it's a constitution saving throw. And then there's Otiluke's conveniently portable Freezing Sphere. Also 10 to 60 cold damage, create a vessel for Otiluke's Freezing Sphere. Put it in your pocket, give it to an ally, or throw it away. It will explode after 10 turns. So you use this, and anybody within melee range you can use it on. It'll give them the sphere. Explosion imminent. Item received. So you go into your inventory, and there's the portable sphere. So you can use an action to throw it. And it does the same thing. So basically you can just give that to an ally and they can cast a level 6 spell. Chain Lightning. This does 10 to 80 lightning damage. Strike an enemy with lightning. 3 more bolts will leap from the target, electrifying as many as 3 other enemies within 60 feet. On save, targets still take half damage. So the initial cast has a range of 60 feet and it's a dexterity saving throw. So use it on him. And there it strikes 3 additional targets. Sunbeam. This does 6 to 48 radiant damage. A beam of brilliant light sears and blinds all creatures in its path. Until the spell ends, you can recast Sunbeam without expending a spell slot, and that's for 10 turns. On save, targets still take half damage. This has an area of effect of 60 feet, it's a constitution saving throw, and it's a concentration spell. So you cast that, and then you can continue to cast it every turn without using a spell slot for the next 10 turns or until your concentration breaks. Heal. This does 70 healing, heal a target's wounds, and remove blindness and any diseases. No effect on undead and constructs, and it's a range of melee. And finally, for our last spell, we have Blade Barrier. This does 6 to 60 slashing damage. Summon a wall of razor-sharp blades that turns the area into difficult terrain and damages anyone foolish enough to come close. Has a range of 60 feet, it's a dexterity saving throw, and it's a concentration spell. So you cast it similar to the other wall spells. End your turn. And that guy went through, he took 16 damage. He died. He took 20 damage and died. Pretty good. So disclaimer, there is one spell for sure that I know I missed. It's from an item that I haven't been able to get yet. It's a level 2 spell called Zephyr Break. It's kind of like Gust of Wind, except it does 6 to 36 thunder damage, and it possibly knocks the target off balance for 2 turns. All right, guys, and that's all the spells for the Evocation School in Baldur's Gate 3. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took me a really long time to make. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let me know how I can improve. I'll see you guys next time.